Imagine being stranded in a frozen wilderness, the howling wind your only companion, your family wasting away before your eyes. And the only way to survive is a choice you swore you'd never make. This is the story of the Donner Party, one of the most horrifying tales of survival in American history. A simple journey west turned into a nightmare of desperation, starvation, and the unthinkable. But how did they get here? And could it all have been avoided? Let's find out. It started like so many journeys in the 1840s, with a dream. Manifest destiny, the belief that Americans were destined to expand westward, was sweeping across America, and thousands of families set their sights on California, a land of endless opportunity. Among them was George Donner, a 60-year-old farmer inexperienced in leading such a journey, and James Reed, a businessman eager for opportunity in California, leading a wagon train of 87 men, women, and children. They packed their wagons with supplies, kissed their homes goodbye, and left Springfield, Illinois, in April 1846. Ahead of them, a 2,500-mile journey full of challenges, but none they thought they couldn't overcome. But a single decision, a supposed shortcut through treacherous, uncharted terrain, would set them on a path to disaster, sealing their fate in the most brutal way imaginable. As they reached Fort Bridger, Wyoming, the Donner Party had a choice: follow the traditional route to California, or take a shortcut through the Wasatch Mountains and the Great Salt Lake Desert. This new route, called Hastings Cutoff, was an untested path promoted by Lansford Hastings, who falsely claimed it would save weeks of travel. In reality, it was fraught with rugged mountains, waterless deserts, and impassable canyons, making it one of the most treacherous paths pioneers could take. And Hastings had never actually tested it himself. The party's decision to take this route proved to be a fatal mistake. Ignoring warnings, the Donner Party rolled the dice on the unknown, much like following a road that exists only on a faulty map. But instead of a shortcut, they found a nightmare. The Wasatch Mountains were a tangled mess of steep cliffs and dense forests. They had to chop down trees, carve paths, and drag their wagons through impossible terrain. What was supposed to be a time saver had already cost them weeks. Then came the Great Salt Lake Desert, a bone-dry, sun-scorched wasteland that stretched for miles. Their oxen collapsed, their wagons sank in the sand, and their water ran out. By the time they escaped its grasp, precious supplies were gone, and their oxen had been reduced to mere skeletons, unable to pull their wagons any further. The desert crossing had cost them over a week, leaving them dangerously behind schedule. And then winter came early. It was late October when the Donner Party reached the Sierra Nevada mountains. Snow began to fall, gently at first, then violently. Within hours, they were trapped beneath 5 feet of snow, with temperatures plummeting well below freezing, making any chance of escape nearly impossible. The path forward was completely blocked, with towering snowdrifts burying the landscape and making movement impossible. Even those who attempted to scale nearby peaks found themselves surrounded by an unbroken sea of white. It was like being trapped inside a steel vault of ice, with no key, no exit, and no help in sight. And with nowhere to go, they set up makeshift camps near what is now called Donner Lake, building rough cabins and shelters from their wagons. But soon the food ran out. They ate their livestock, their leather harnesses, and even boiled tree bark. But starvation was relentless. They had one last option, an option no one wanted to face. The first to die were buried, but as more perished, burial became impossible. Desperation gave rise to the forlorn hope. A group of 17 of the strongest emigrants who set out on foot, fashioning makeshift snowshoes and carrying only the barest rations. Their journey was a desperate gamble for survival. Snow-blind and freezing, they walked for days, their bodies weakening with each step. In their darkest moments, they drew straws to decide who would be sacrificed first, though starvation claimed most before they had to go through with it. When death took them, the survivors did the unthinkable. They ate their fallen companions to stay alive. Back at the cabins, hunger devoured reason. Families who had once shared meals together now faced an unimaginable horror, choosing which bodies to consume to stave off death. Civilization's rules no longer applied. Even worse, Luis and Salvador, two Native American guides, were murdered by William Foster, who feared they would take what little food remained. In the end, their bodies too were eaten out of sheer desperation. Right and wrong no longer existed, only survival remained. Finally, in February 1847, the first rescue party, led by seasoned frontiersmen, arrived after enduring weeks of battling deep snowdrifts and brutal conditions. Miraculously, the Breen family survived, one of the only families to remain completely intact. The survivors were barely human anymore. Skin stretched over bone, eyes hollow, minds broken. Over the next 2 months, 4 rescue groups fought their way through the mountains, saving only 45 of the original 87. But their suffering was far from over. When they emerged from the mountains, the world didn't greet them as heroes. Instead, they were labeled monsters. It's like surviving a shipwreck, only to be blamed for what you had to do to stay alive. Newspapers sensationalized their cannibalism, turning it into shocking headlines that painted survivors as either villains or tragic figures. Some survivors were welcomed back with sympathy, while others faced whispers and judgment for decades. Their suffering became lurid tabloid material, forever marking them in the public eye. Survivors found themselves not only struggling to rebuild their lives, but also facing public scorn. Some were haunted by whispers of their ordeal for decades, while others were forever stigmatized by a society that saw them as monsters rather than victims. Some denied the rumors, while others admitted it but insisted they had no choice. The Donner Party became one of the darkest legends in American history, a story whispered with horror, disbelief, and judgment. But before we judge them too harshly, let me ask you this: what would you have done? The Donner Party left home with hope, but in the mountains, hope turned into horror. Could they have survived without resorting to cannibalism, or was it truly the only way? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into history's most chilling survival story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more.